Thank you, Mark, and welcome to Connect Summit. Thank you all for coming to Frankfurt, and thank you to everyone joining remotely. It's a great crowd here. I am super excited to welcome you all this morning. Now, it's really a big year for Connect Summit. It's been launched 10 years ago as a forum for enterprise architects and others together. The goal was always to share best practices and to network. This year, there's going to be 4 events around the globe. We start here in Frankfurt, then New York, San Francisco, and we finish at the beautiful Gold Coast in Australia. This is just part of our commitment to the enterprise architecture community. Now, end of April, we have actually celebrated a fantastic milestone. 1,000 customers. And we're thankful for every single customer who's trusting us with their transformation. And it's been an honor for us to welcome Mars as the customer number 1,000. We welcome them to the community, to this community here. Now, 11 years ago, enterprise architecture as a category and discipline has sometimes been seen as an ivory tower. How do we get value out of it? Today, enterprise architecture is a mission-critical category. It provides the foundation for continuous transformation. Now, a big question is, where can enterprise architects have the most impact? The big opportunity for us is we can listen to 1,000 customers, your voices. You are actually telling us what are the themes we should look into. And this is why my talk this morning will actually connect to those voices and explore the themes in that. And show how we as a company help to get those themes implemented. Now, let's start with the first theme, reducing technology complexity and cost. It's at our core belief that you can't manage what you can't measure. So this famous quote is obviously applicable to the discipline of architecture as well. You can't move to a target state if you don't know where you start from. It's just not possible. There's too much risk you run into the wrong direction. Now, to kick things off, we want to start with hearing directly from one of those voices. We listen to Mike Anderson, the CIO and CDO at Netscope.
Technology landscapes are inherently complex. Most of the complexity we have today is the result of countless business and technology decisions. My role as CIO is to reduce unnecessary complexity. One of my favorite quotes is from Leonardo da Vinci that I've shared with my teams time and time again. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Now, reducing complexity is a continuous exercise, requiring visibility into the as-is landscape as well as the to-be landscape. It calls for close collaboration between other business functions and IT because IT can simply not do it alone. We must collaborate and work as a team. Managing complexity to increase efficiency, reduce security and technology risks, improve business performance, and so on isn't easy, but it is worth the effort.
Now, the analysts confirm that the software spend is going to increase this year. And this despite the macro climate. It's interesting. However, if we look at one of our surveys, more than 75% of the organizations say 10% of their IT budget is wasted. Now, the increasing budget gets eaten up. And looking at some of the leading causes, tech debt, redundant applications, and more. How do you actually avoid some of this waste? Well, you have to rationalize applications, reduce tech debt, create room for innovation. The sad news about it is, in the same survey we heard that only 15% of the organizations actually do this regularly, not doing it systematically enough. What is obviously key and what we hear over and over is getting the relevant data, reliable data to take the decisions. Now, what are we doing to ensure the data quality is at this level so that you have the data at hand. Let's start with the survey. Surveys are key to the data collection. To make it actually easier for users to fill the data, we've added a couple of features. For example, a progress bar for an overview of the completion status. We've also improved the survey structure, grouping questions into the fact sheet cards, and so much more to make it even more convenient. The survey is becoming much more user-friendly. But we also level this up for the ones who are creating the surveys next. Now, let's look at what you do with the data. Better filtering actually helps you to navigate the complexity of your landscape. We've heard your feedback. So, for example, you told us, well, I'd like to see my applications for specific interfaces, no matter if they're incoming or outgoing. This wasn't really possible so far. So this will become possible shortly. Of course, it's not only applicable in this report of the landscape, it will be available step by step in all the reports and also in the inventory. So navigating the complexity means also being able to slice and dice it in a very user-friendly way. So that's why I'd like to take a short moment to provide a little outlook into how a revised inventory will actually look like. It will help you to find what you're looking for even faster. So let's have a look. There's a personal space on the left-hand side with your subscriptions, with the last view, the last updates, and so on. There's also the dynamic list of the last used fact sheet types, the use case collections, which are known from the reports. And in general, the inventory looks much cleaner. But most importantly, of course, is the way you filter. Filtering will move into a dedicated panel. Drop-downs to allow to define the conditions, their values, and how they're concatenated. It's crucial to emphasize that LeanIX is not about creating a sophisticated query language. LeanIX always benefited from users easily adding their filter queries. When we started 10 years ago, the starting point was really like the similar way how people go into a web shop and they search for stuff online. This is how easy filtering needs to be. So this is always our North Star, like really thinking about this. And it needs to stay easy for the everyday user, but of course not exclude more of the power user requests, so creating some more advanced queries. This will be possible in the new inventory design. Then hierarchies play a big role in architecture. We're talking about business capabilities as a structure. We're talking about tech categories like the TBM model, for example. In order to reflect hierarchies better, we will introduce a hierarchy edit right inside the inventory. Now, if we have a look here, we can drill down the hierarchy right inside. And what's also crucial is, typically you want to have a custom order. You want to organize your capabilities in the order where they make sense. Today, it's done by enumerating them. This is not convenient. That's why we're introducing custom orders, which will then be applied consistently throughout LeanIX. Now, that's all about the inventory and filtering for now. Let's look at how do you then take it to the next step. Use it in diagrams, for example. Diagrams are an important piece to analyze the data. And we've invested in better diagram visualizations and did that based on the new technology. The key benefits are actually improved efficiency while you're creating those diagrams. And our goal for this quarter is to replace the previous editor, both for the free draw and the data flow diagrams. In June, the next generation free draw editor will actually reach feature parity. This will allow us then to move on. Now, this is key on the diagramming side. Now, looking forward into the access of the data. We work more and more with multinational and large organizations. Many of them are actually here today and tomorrow. And we see broader collaboration beyond the enterprise architecture discipline, beyond IT, and beyond the different legal entities. But not everybody should always see all the data or change all the data. For this reason, we've introduced many years ago the ability to configure access, permissions, and all of that. However, it has been not as easy to do that and to steer it yourself. Now it's actually possible with creating new user roles to do this on your own directly in the meta model configuration. It offers more control to the admin on who can see and do what. So additionally, by user role, admins can set detailed permissions for the fact sheet type. This can be done on a general level and even down to the level of fact sheet attributes. We will introduce advanced permissions later, which will help to simplify the configuration setup. You don't need to introduce new roles for specific scenarios, but advanced permissions can then be based on the subscription type of the fact sheet. So really defining what a responsible for an application can do. Now, looking ahead into some of the challenges of software as a service adoption. We will believe that SaaS adoption will further increase. And it's predicted that 63% growth will happen until 2025. The key challenges, amongst other things, are that businesses are most often unaware of all the SaaS contracts and the business owners. It's a struggle to find out who has purchased something. When is the next contract running out? A decentralized and fragmented purchasing leads to contracts chaos sometimes. And don't get me wrong, I think the ability for the business to purchase software as a service, which they need to improve their processes, to improve their customer experience, is important. And I think it should go on. But the IT needs ways to help and discover that software in a good way. And also how to manage the contracts. So here's a way how to efficiently manage the software as a service contracts and their renewals. So looking at renewals under control. So this is why we're introducing what we call a SaaS renewals board. It helps to manage contracts renewals in the SaaS management platform. Let's have a look how it works. It's very convenient to actually look into the steps of the renewal, take decisions in a structured way, and then see which of the renewals actually have been done. Now, for more of details, please head to our SaaS management platform product session, which will also happen later today. Now, let's look into the second theme, navigating transformation. Our core belief is that the ability to transform as a company is one of the most critical capabilities a company can have. There's so many changes going on. And that's why I'm excited to hear one of those examples. So let's listen to Marco Lenk, the VP IT Business Applications at Vibracoustic.
Vibracoustic will perform a significant ERP transformation over the next 5 years. A transformation including more than 18 local ERP systems along with the other applications. Harmonizing these systems requires an analysis of our application landscape in terms of process fit and functional fit. We also plan to transform these landscapes in line with our strategic objectives. This entire process will involve a lot of people globally, both from the IT organization as well as the various business units. With this harmonization initiative, we aim both to reduce IT costs and accelerate the implementation of new business global requirements. LeanIX helps us to drive this important change in several ways. We use APM to understand the application involved in the rollout, as well as to measure the template maturity of our plans, the template quality of our processes, and the functional fit of the template processes in each plant. This will provide critical insights to guide the rollout process. And we use BTM to plan and control the harmonization itself. In LeanIX, we have a transparent platform connecting business transformation with IT architectural changes. This integrated approach helps keep us focused on the topics that matter most.
ERP transformations are some of the biggest transformations businesses can undertake. ERP systems are business critical. The entire business is running on it. And they're interconnected with so many other applications in the landscapes. That's why we asked our customers to rank the biggest ERP transformation challenges. So if we look at them, aligning IT, business, and project teams, defining the target architectures and the roadmap towards it, and understanding the interdependencies, because there's not just one ERP system to upgrade, there's been so many other systems out there. Now, what is crucial to support this better? Communication and visualizing how the rollout is going to happen. So this is where more intuitive roadmaps come in. And what we will introduce is a better clustering in the matrix reports like you know it from the matrix reports, as a first step. So let's have a look. Now, also within the roadmaps, it will be possible to much easier structure them by the different capabilities. Literally by any dimension you can put on those axes. It allows you to see the roadmaps in much less space. That's one step we're doing. But the next step is actually to see more information in context. We would like to improve the decision-making and status reporting. And it will be possible by adding relevant information into the roadmap context. Let's think, for example, about specific information about the business criticality and how it changes, or specific tags you have set, the subscriptions, who's actually responsible for one of those roadmaps items. So far, you had to piece it all together from different areas. And I'm excited to see that this all now comes together. So communication of the rollouts, of the transitions becomes easier. We want to avoid that you have to communicate and structure this outside of LeanIX, like in emails, PowerPoints, documents, and so on. And so this will be available later this quarter. Now, what is also crucial is to understand what are the successors of applications. If you roll them out, if you do a waved rollout, then which countries come first, which come next, or which business units come first and come next? Where is this application available when? Today, it was only possible to either go for successors or for going for the drill downs. Now, with this new functionality, we will be able to see, for example, the rollout of the system and when it's going to be available to which country, in this case, step by step on the roadmap. ERP roadmaps and transformations are not the only transformations out there. Companies also transform by modernizing their applications. That's why I'm excited that we have another voice here. So let's listen to Patrick Quellmalz, the head of IT Business Relationship Management at ZF.
Driving transformation is critical, particularly for international firms such as ZF. But it must be pursued in a structured way that ensures the responsible use of resources. Along these lines, I've been very focused on how we modernize our landscape, e.g. to move it to the cloud. At ZF, we invest many millions of euros in adjusting and improving our landscape, and it is important for us to understand what we achieve in our architecture with these investments. For example, removing technical debt, increasing automation, leveling up customer experience. For us, it is crucial to back our decisions on better transparency, which allows us to take our decisions faster, with more confidence and with the ability to track the outcome against expectations.
Now also, the analysts confirm that organizations will increase the spend on application modernization and on the adoption of cloud platforms. However, those modernization initiatives often struggle to develop a successful business case. We've heard from our customers that they're going into approvals every month without exactly knowing what they're actually approving. It takes time to research again, what are the projects doing? How are they changing the landscape? And then requests are coming back to the organization. Everyone is busy again, piecing together, what are we going to do in this $1 million project, in this $2 million, $5 million project? So this is delaying again the kickoff of those initiatives. So we believe a more business-focused approach can help. How do we connect the application modernization back to the original goals, back to the original objectives, and then track their execution? Now, let me take you through it. The first step is understanding what's all happening. Our LeanIX BTM helps to streamline the planning of the app modernization and the cloud initiatives. There's a single source or a single pane where you actually then see all the transformations going on. You can slice and dice them, look for different applications, projects, and so on, which influence them. Now, here it's possible to see all the architecture changes in one view. How does it go on from there? From here, the next step is actually to close the gap between the strategy and the execution. It's crucial to measure the success of transformation, which means to link them to the objectives. So what you see here is how do the different initiatives actually rolling up for a bigger goal of the company. So we're doing a couple of replacements here, but what are they contributing to? What's actually already ongoing? What's planned out? What's the progress? Now, this is only one piece, understanding which initiatives are contributing to something. So planning is important, of course, but also, in the end, tracking if the execution is happening. And that's why the link is needed to, in most cases, the agile execution. And for this reason, we're actually pulling in information from agile tracking systems. For example, in this case, we've started with Jira, as it's very widely adopted. What happens is, for these different initiatives, you can immediately link them to key epics and issues and understand the status right inside of LeanIX. And this then, in the end, also rolls up to the objective level. It makes it easier to actually get the data together. And again, it's less work for you to piece the data together from all the sources to make sure everybody is actually on the same page. If you're interested to be part of this, head to roadmap.leanix.net and subscribe for this topic, because we would like to offer you to be part of the beta program for it. Now, moving on to the third theme, improving data-driven decision-making. It's undoubted that reliable and high-quality data is core for every business. Managing the data is also essential for every kind of business transformation. And that's why it's exciting to hear from Switzerland's largest retailer, because they see a huge benefit in combining the discipline of data management and architecture. So let's take a minute to hear from Martin Baschnagel, the CTO and Chief Enterprise Architect at Migros.
Accurate, reliable, real-time data availability is very important to Migros. It plays a critical role when it comes to optimizing our supply chain and procurement processes to minimize our carbon footprint, and it is essential for the continual and consistent improvement of the customer experience, both online and in store. To put data to work in a consistent manner it has to be actively managed and governed. We have to know instantly where data is mastered and how it flows through the IT landscape. And we also need to constantly ensure its quality. To gain this kind of insights, we need to be able to manage data down to the application and interface level. This degree of detail isn't only important from an operational standpoint, it becomes a critical requirement for board and regulatory reporting. For example, we need to comply with new data security and privacy regulations requiring that all companies know where personal data are stored and processed. The LeanIX and Collibra data catalog integration is a small but an essential building block in support of our data-driven strategy. It enables Migros to improve data usage as well as data governance. It also helps reduce the risk associated with data silos and supports value creation from our data for the enterprise architecture practice and the entire Migros group.
Now I'm excited to announce our partnership with Collibra, the leading data intelligence company. And it confirms one of our beliefs: focus on our core capabilities and augment them by integrations with best-in-class products. We've done it earlier, for example, in the process management world with our partner SAP Signavio. And this is one of the other examples here, looking on the data side with Collibra. The integration with Collibra will help to optimize the value creation from data. We heard it from Martin just before. It helps enterprise architects, CIOs, and other business leaders take more informed decisions about investments, because now data and architecture views are connected. You look from both sides. Which systems store the critical data, and the other way around, where is it manipulated? And I'm excited also to hear and listen to Felix, the CEO and co-founder of Collibra.
I'm very excited about expanding our partnership with LeanIX and creating more value for our customers by integrating data intelligence and enterprise architecture. Collibra's data intelligence cloud removes the complexity from your data landscape by tightly integrating cataloging, governance, lineage, quality, and privacy capabilities into one platform, so you can do more with trusted data. The integration with LeanIX now allows us to take our mission even further. Enterprise architecture management provides essential insights into your data applications that master the data and helps you understand how that data flows throughout your enterprise. With this integration, our joint customers will have access to even better architecture and better data intelligence capabilities. I'm looking forward to working even more closely with LeanIX to better serve our customers together, enabling better decisions and positive business outcomes.
I'm thrilled that this partnership is coming to life and that we could launch it by working very, very closely together with one of our customers here. Now, going to the next theme, how to control the IT technology risk. Risk comes in many forms, but most important is security these days. Almost all organizations are concerned about software security. We all know that open source software has a lot of advantages. It speeds up development. You can build upon a whole different level. However, it also needs control. You need to understand it. We've seen some of those examples in the last couple of years. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Daniel Eichten to the stage, who I'd like to discuss some of those topics. So welcome Daniel, the VP of Enterprise Architecture at Adidas. Hi. So Daniel, you actually at Adidas also are moving towards like a more zero carbon environment. That's one of your initiatives. But you also strive to clean up the landscape and reduce as possible the risks you have in your landscape. What was actually at stake for Adidas when the Log4j issue came out? So how did you get along with that?
Yeah, I guess it's like for everyone that really came unprepared, right? So you know that you have it somewhere running, but with such a crucial component and a component that no one really thinks about, like Log4j, that really hit us unprepared. And then the typical situation started. IT security is analyzing this situation and asking, hey, where do we have that running? Where are the applications that are running Java? Where are the applications that are running that have Log4j? And that took us weeks to actually figure that all out. And it was even better now with some things that we have running in VSM. It's better in these custom developed applications right now, but it was a nightmare in the applications that we actually purchased.
Yeah. And what have you implemented since then? I mean, you touched a bit on it, increased visibility, but maybe you can share some more insights into how would you react if it would happen today? Yeah? So what are your initial steps to deal with it?
Well, I mean, the scanning side actually will not fall through the crack. But since then we started to implement VSM. We have it up and running in our sales domain already. We plan to roll it out further in this year. Let's see if that's working out. And that is already a huge help because now we can go into LeanIX, actually identify the applications, including the version of what library is running over there. And if IT security tomorrow comes to us and asks us, hey, where do we have library XYZ running in version ABC, we can immediately spot it and say, like, in this environment, in this environment, in this environment, these applications. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. So thank you, Daniel, for joining me on stage here. I can really recommend listening to Daniel's entire track in a second, which we have here this morning. So Daniel, good luck for your talk later. Excited to have you. Now, the topic we were talking about without really naming is typically called the Software Bill of Materials, SBOM. And it's projected that 88% of the organizations need to actually use it. So there's a big movement towards it. And it's by no surprise. Yeah? The discussions around Log4j have actually came up, and it needs a better understanding of all the dependencies. There's even a mandate by the US federal government for companies to engage with SBOM, to provide that. So if you want to do business with them, it's becoming a requirement. So I think the starting point, the issues are well understood. The problem is the how. Now, how do you actually operationalize the issues around the SBOMs? Because a lot of that is still unclear. There's no standardization around the data exchange formats yet. And the organizations don't know exactly which services already generate SBOMs. There's a high demand for tooling that is easy to use and interoperable. So the key topic and the key question is, how can we actually efficiently use SBOMs and improve the software supply chain security? So I'd like to give you an idea how to uncover the usage of vulnerable libraries thanks to LeanIX Value Stream Management, VSM. An efficient SBOM consumption is possible through the CycloneDX SBOM ingestion, a standard LeanIX is actually basing it on. So let's have a look here. We can actually easily go here and search for Log4j and understand where it's used. So here we can look on one of those products and understand the open source software risk as a next topic. So it's not based on manual data collection, but it's really based on an automated data discovery. And the next step is then really to understand, how do you take that and include that into the architecture work? Well, the next step here is to turn the insights into action. Data from the discovery in VSM is aggregated into the enterprise architecture context. We strongly believe that there should be dedicated solutions for the different stakeholders in the organization. And that's why we see here the aggregated open source software risk, and then can actually drill down deeper into the real-time updates which are happening on the VSM side. That's one way to look at it and connect those two worlds in an intelligent way. The other is, of course, to look at it in the application landscape report. So really understanding which applications are actually affected now by the open source software risk. And you know where to take it from here. Where are the impacts most? So there can be ratings in the future and stuff like that. So again, we believe that in an agile development environment, there's no way to run behind it in a manual way. We've heard it from Daniel. It in the end will lead to a lot of manual work to trying to figure it out. You're not able to respond quick enough if the next thing's coming up. And also our second belief is there shouldn't be all the detailed data, the libraries and all of that right inside the enterprise architecture repository. There's one fact, which is that in average, a software project has 2,000 open source dependencies. So let's imagine that. If all your applications are having all those detailed libraries just in your enterprise architecture repository, it's going to be a nightmare to understand what are all the relevant data. That's why we believe this clear separation of concerns makes a ton of sense. Finally, moving to the theme number 5. How can IT contribute to sustainability? And I can tell you, it's an important topic for us all. By 2030, the world will consume around 8,000 terawatt hours just in the ICT industry. It's roughly 20% of the overall expected electricity usage. It's huge. Now, let's hear from Nicolas Sundberg, the CIO of ASSA ABLOY, how he looks at it.
I'm Nicolas Sundberg, and I'm the CIO for ASSA ABLOY Global Solutions. I'm also the author of the book, Sustainable IT Playbook for Technology Leaders. When I assumed the role of CIO, not only was I determined, together with my team, to over-deliver on my CIO remit, but also to make sustainable IT an integral part of our overall IT strategy. My goal was to weave sustainability into our guiding principles and decisions that we would make from here on out towards a sustainable future, a net zero future. IT is a significant enabler for long-term sustainability efforts and business success. In fact, research has shown that 88% of companies' sustainability-related strategy decisions are influenced by IT. There are a number of concrete steps that IT organizations can take to impact sustainability. And I have found it useful to separate these two steps into two categories. Sustainability through IT, where the focus falls on using technology to make the firm sustainable. Sustainability of IT, which focuses on efforts to make the infrastructure itself more sustainable. The key thing to remember is this: CIOs are in the driver's seat when it comes to tech-enabled and data-driven ESG transformation.
Tackling ESG and sustainability plays into some of the strength of LeanIX, providing a single source of truth and collecting and analyzing the data, and then creating a roadmap towards a target state. So this is what's really at the core of what enterprise architects are actually doing. So why not combining it much stronger and providing more guidance how the topics work together? So that's why Viega, PwC Germany, and we as LeanIX collaborated on an R&D project. Viega is a global manufacturer of plumbing and heating systems, and they're very interested in understanding how they can positively influence their ESG measures. The goal was to provide CIOs and enterprise architects with best practices guidelines to take the first steps towards a sustainable IT. So it started with thinking about what are some of the key ESG metrics. And this was based on the work of sustainableIT.org, a great resource, by the way. PwC identified the 5 key metrics, which were emissions, energy consumption, electronic waste, digital ethics, and the green sourcing. And if we only take one of those, emissions, the global CO2 emissions from IT are expected to rise to 14% of the total global emissions in the next 15 years. So IT should focus on its own emissions, like we heard, but as well on the emissions generated by the upstream processes. So how do you do this? How do you start this whole exercise? So this is where different capabilities come in handy to understand where does it make sense. Create an overview of what you could do all. And this is where PwC's best practice ESG capability map provides a valuable overview and guidance on selecting focus areas. And I'm happy to announce that the best practices ESG capability map will be part of LeanIX. So you will be able to add it to your workspaces and start working from there. Of course, if you want to learn more about this, I highly recommend to attend the session on sustainable EA by PwC or visit their booth outside. Because the topic of sustainability is increasing in importance and interest, we are having another great talk on our agenda with 2 great speakers from Scania later. We hope that we can provide more conversation, more discussion about this important topic also in this great community. Now, I've shared with you 5 topics and a number of product innovations. Of course, that's not all of it. And that's why it's exciting to say that there will be deeper product insights available in additional sessions throughout the 2 days. And you can also join and meet the product team at their demo stations outside. Now, LeanIX Connect Summit is also a great opportunity to talk a bit more about the strategy. Where are we going with our product? Where we're heading? And reveal some of the early concepts we're preparing. And for that reason, I would like to start with a very important part of our strategy, our meta model. 11 years ago, we started LeanIX with the idea to radically simplify enterprise architecture. Some of you remember the topic that meta models have been fairly complex at the time. There have been meta models with like 50, 60 different types. There have been big posters to actually fit all the models on them. And it's probably for a good reason. But for us, it was always the key question. Can you understand the meta model in a few seconds, or at least in a few minutes? And do you actually need a PhD for it? Or can a lot of people understand it? It's crucial to actually achieve a wide adoption in the organization. Now, the world has changed during the last 11 years. There's been the rise of product-centric organizations, the adoption of strategic platforms, a better linkage of IT to the business, widespread adoption of microservices and cloud. What is a common pattern across a number of conversations I have with you as customers is, André, can you please give us more guidance? We don't want to waste time discussing meta models in our organization. The more guidance you can give how to best reflect it in LeanIX, the better it is. Now we have those conflicts. We have this very simple and pragmatic model we've invented a couple of years ago, but we still have a number of emerging topics coming up. Now, we want to respond to this stronger guidance, of course, but we will do that with a lot of care for the existing model. So that's why for us, it's more an evolution than a revolution of it. Let's have a look. This guidance comes in those 5 points. There's one new fact sheet type we introduce into the model. But before, let's start with the topic of product-centric organizations. What we do is we actually change and rename the project to initiative to better reflect the agile context. There's companies who do not only do projects, some work in epics and in other structures. So that's one. The second is to reflect digital and technical platforms better. We're introducing one more factory type, which is platforms. In order to have a better reflection of the business context, we enlarge what was used until now as process, and we rename that to the business context. There's also a clear recommendation now to reflect microservices and deployments as applications in LeanIX. And last but not least, a better classification of subtypes. For example, for IT components, we reflect cloud properly, or for organizations as well. Now, the big question starts. What do I do with my model? I've developed it, it's in place. Do I need to change everything? So let's break it down a bit. For new customers, they can start directly based on this recommended model. And we are rolling this model out at one point in the next quarter in Q3. That's easy. For existing customers, my key message is there's no need you now change your meta model upside down. You've gone through some of the conversations, but if you have not adopted platforms yet, well, now there's a clear recommendation how you do it. This is how you should read this announcement this morning. And of course, we will support moving closer to our recommendation. But it's very, very important to me to say that LeanIX always had and always will need to work with your custom meta model. We cannot go and let functionality break and fall apart because you introduced a different type. It's not going to work. So that's why it's important to say you don't have to change all of that. But it reflects your wish that we give stronger guidance how you should model some of those things if you haven't done it. So there will be support in different forms to actually understand how you can transition to it if you like to do it, or if you can automatically level up your existing model if there's no conflicts. We're going to announce more materials around this in the next quarter and take you on this journey step by step. But we wanted to use this community to start a conversation early, to get some initial feedback and to still influence how we document and roll out all the changes. A couple of weeks ago, we discontinued our mobile application. It's been a tough message to deliver for me. We've been working on it. We've created a second version on it. A team has put a lot of efforts in it. And some of you didn't like it at all. However, looking at the adoption of it, we've not seen getting it to a level. And thinking about it one more time, we also figured out that there is, in the business context, a much stronger need for integrations in where the people work every day. And what is that? It's Teams, Slack, as examples. So the mobile app isn't the best fit to get closer to where people work. What we also learned is that companies want to integrate LeanIX into their Teams apps, into their Slack apps, more easy. And that's why I'm excited to share that we will actually open source our integrations. We will build and continue providing those integrations and apps for Teams and Slack, but we will make the source code of that open source because we've learned that for some companies, they want to have the 20th chatbot, the 20th application in Teams. They would want to have it grouped in their own IT chatbot, as an example. And that's why we're making our source code for those integrations available, so you can pick the functionality you like and include it. In some frameworks, there's even a way to take parts of our implementation and just include it. So we believe it will become easier to build and integrate with those important platforms. And I'd like to point out during those 2 days, reach out to our professional services team, who is actually now positioned to help companies integrate into their processes, into their workflows much better thanks to this direction. Now, we've discussed a number of themes this morning. You've seen a lot of great new capabilities. And this is for me a point to say a big thank you to my team for all the hard work bringing this into a shape to present this morning and to get it out to our customers. So a huge thank you from my side. But it's important to say that this progress reflects also the collaboration we have with you. This community is crucial for us, and the event here in person is one key part of that collaboration. There's a lot of networking here. We have a lot of product sessions out there. This is influencing where our product strategy is going. We felt that after the Connect Summit, it usually breaks up. It doesn't go on like that. And that's why we've revisited how we actually put our digital communities in place. So to keep the conversation going, we've launched a new community. It's already online, and you can actually sign up as a customer and partner, and I invite you to join at community.leanix.net. It has a number of great abilities, and it's really fascinating that it's putting it all in one place, searching across all the content and connecting much better. With this, I'd like to say, see you at one of our Connect Summits in the future, and also, of course, online. Now, there couldn't be a keynote these days without talking about ChatGPT, right? You can't just ignore it. And we also believe ChatGPT is a moment like the introduction of the iPhone. It's a seismic shift for our industry and for businesses in general. And while it might not be applicable to all use cases, at least it's crucial to think about it, to explore it, to deal with it. And this is what I'd like to do. Let's think about how ChatGPT could be helpful in the field of enterprise architecture. Let's start basic. Complete my architecture documentation, some tedious tasks, documenting and writing it all down. Write a summary of my applications in the inventory. Accelerate the research. Understand, for example, what are successor technologies out there? What could I use in some of my capabilities as alternative software? The next IT board is coming up. You need to prepare a recommendation based on all the information which you already have in LeanIX. So why do you need to go in there and put it all together? Of course, these are only initial ideas how it can become helpful. But what if it would be possible to actually try this out today? So I'm thrilled to introduce LeanIX AI Assistant. Now, just as easy as ChatGPT, you can start a chat. So let's start with a simple example. What if we would complete the descriptions for all applications which don't have any? Let's give it a try. Let's look at all applications in our inventory which don't have any description. So adding the request to create descriptions, we want to have only a description with 2 sentences, and by the way, it would be nice to have a URL to the website. So guess what? the AI can do the job and add the descriptions and nicely put in place the link to the website. And then if we are satisfied with it, we can just save the results with a click of a button into the inventory. You see where this is going. Combining generative AI with the flexibility and the power of an EA inventory in a meaningful way. That's what it's nice about it. In order to jumpstart and foster this conversation, the LeanIX AI assistant comes with a number of predefined requests. So let's have a look again what we've just seen. We have added a couple of requests, like filling the descriptions, but we can also do it for our business capabilities. There shouldn't be any capability on level 1 which doesn't have a description here, of course. So of course, selecting from it, you can jumpstart it, and we can do it here as well. So it can be applied to different kind of requests. But now looking at the deriving descriptions, I would probably say that's the base use case you can go. However, what if we could actually use the AI to accelerate our research? Going out, for example, looking at all applications which have been classified as a low functional fit today. Let's imagine we could research the top 5 competitors of those products and have a look what's out there and then research from there. Instead of doing this manually, we can actually do this at scale. We can also do it, of course, on the tech level and understand which successor technologies are out there for technologies which are no longer supported. Let's get an idea, for example, for DropWizard as a framework and others. It accelerates research and gives you initial ideas where to look at. The next stage of it is thinking about recommendations. What if the AI could actually look at all the insights about an application, which we have? There's business capabilities, data objects, technologies underneath, interfaces, and so on. And now you're supposed to actually go out and create a recommendation for the next IT board. What does the process typically mean? Well, you have to analyze and look at the details. You have to make meaning out of it. We always felt 10 years ago our fact sheets are already a good thing, taking them to the conversation. However, but sometimes in an IT board or in any conversation, you only have like 2 minutes time. Or sometimes you have to send an essay up front or a presentation up front. So instead of looking at all the data ourselves, we can actually task the AI to come up with an architecture recommendation for an executive decision and get details for it as bullets. In this case, it actually analyzes all the data of an application and points out some of the things it observes. And what we can then do is, based on the recommendation, see, well, we probably do an architecture review in more detail and classify this way what we're doing. I believe this is just the start, and the possibilities seem to be endless. It's important for me to say that not every use case makes sense for generative AI. It's very important. And there are entire talks and conversations about it. And I recommend and point you to like those talks. I'm not going to be talking about like those use cases today. I'm just telling you it's crucial to differentiate use cases which make sense from those which don't make sense. But the way how we get there is actually trying it out and figuring out, combining what we know in theory with like using it and applying it to the data. And I can tell you it's quite intriguing to try it out. To try it out, what can it deliver me as value? How can we explore where those use cases make sense? So that's why if you want to be part of this exploration, go to roadmap.leanix.net. There's going to be a portal or card on it where you can signal your interest, and we are going to add step-by-step customers into that program. There's also a demo station out here with colleagues of our solution engineering team who actually are able to demonstrate the demos, go a bit deeper, show some examples, and of course, start to type in some of the free requests. I think what's important to say in this whole exploration process, and that's why this community is so important of it, is one advantage of the LeanIX AI assistant is that companies and users in your companies are not taking the content from LeanIX and copy-paste it into ChatGPT now to try it out, right? So what's happening here is the LeanIX AI assistant is running on a dedicated GPT model hosted on Azure, which makes sure that your data about the architecture, about the landscape, is not moved into a public ChatGPT where data is stored for learning purposes. So ChatGPT can be safely closed off for including data like from the EA space, but nevertheless, it can be leveraged thanks to the AI assistant in order to explore use cases and try them out. So we are excited to learn together with you where we take it from here. Let's combine it and wrap it up. LeanIX delivers innovation in all those 5 areas. Let's imagine if we would apply the AI to some of these themes and over time find more and more interesting and relevant use cases how to accelerate those themes with functionality. We are excited to have passed the 1,000 customers. It feels like the best is yet to come. And we are just getting started. Thank you so much.